a 16-year-old who got into some of the top universities in the world. He actually amassed scholarship worth of nearly $2 million.
So it all happened when I was in grade 6, when I took a presidential school examination, but I failed that examination. I got the last place, like 438th place out of 438. You don't actually need 8.5. People get into Harvard, people get into Stanford with 7.5 IELTS. So I studied 4 APs on my own, 3 APs, AP Physics 1, AP Physics C Mechanics, and AP Calculus BC that I've joined freshman full support program back in 2025, February. Valera Arakelian, who has been my mentor for a year already.
How did your parents react when they found out you got into those universities?
I'll be joining Stanford, class of 2031. Not 2030. I'll be taking a deferral year. I'll be taking a gap year.
All these groundbreaking ideas and innovations start out as a thought in someone's mind. And as preposterous as they seem, they might actually be possible.
You're able to travel across the galaxy. You're able to do this through a certain technology called the nuclear fusion propulsion.
Concept you will probably come to realize and appreciate later in life. The absence of resources actually creates necessity, and the abundance of resources creates no necessity.
Amirbek alone, right? That's a tower which was so humongously huge that I was afraid of it. And when I was building it in Minecraft, I made it extra large and I made it extra imposing, extra scary.
Hey folks, hey everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Astra Muse. I'm your host, Muhammad Ali. On today's episode, I am thrilled to be talking to a 16-year-old who got into some of the top universities in the world. So he actually amassed scholarship worth of nearly $2 million. It's just insane, this number itself. So this guy got into a bunch of colleges in the United States, one of them being an Ivy League school, Stanford.
Oh, that was wrong.
That's not Ivy.
No, it's
That's not Ivy. Okay. I'll get to that part later. So the person I'm talking about is actually a return guest, and I'm super pumped to be talking to him today. All right, without further ado, let's get started. Mr. Amirbek, welcome.
Hello, I'm Amirbek. I've been here before in 2024, I guess October, right? So I got into several schools recently in the last 2 weeks. Can I talk about them right now?
For sure, yeah.
Yeah, sure. So I got into Stanford University, California Institute of Technology, which is called Caltech. I'll be referring to it this way. Brown University, which is the Ivy League institution, Swarthmore College, and the Washington and Lee University.
You know what? I've always been under the impression that Stanford is one of the Ivy League schools.
Yeah, it might seem like that, but it's actually not an Ivy League school because an Ivy League school is not a collection of top schools. It's a collection of universities that play football with each other, right? And plus, they are all in the East Coast, while Stanford is in California, which is the West Coast. So it's a completely different part of the United States of America.
Right. But to a lot of people out there, when you say, I'm going to an Ivy League school, the first names that come to their minds are Harvard, Yale, Stanford.
Princeton, yeah. I would say
Stanford is somewhere there, you see.
Stanford is on par with Harvard and all other Ivy League institutions. It's considered to be one of the Ivy Plus schools, which is an unofficial title. But if you just look at the rankings or the prestige that it offers, they're actually on the same level as Ivy League schools, maybe even higher, right? I wouldn't give too much attention to the QS rankings, but for my personal ranking, Stanford is number one. It used to be MIT, but right now, can I change my opinion on that?
We'll get to that later, actually. Right now, I would like to, backtrack to where all this started.
Yeah.
For those who are watching this podcast for the first time or who have met him for the first time, who hasn't watched his podcast before, you actually, why don't you tell our audience a little about where you started with your English, what you did with your academics and et cetera, a little bit of, background. And we will.
So it all happened when I was in grade 6, I guess, when I took a presidential school examination. But I failed that examination. I got the last place. I got 438th place out of 438. So it was an embarrassing loss. And the thing is, I was pretty much devastated since I was preparing for that exam for like a year, but I messed up so hard, right? I was very much demotivated, right, when I found out about this news. But then I kind of started thinking that, well, maybe I can do it on my own without any institution, right? So I started, going to the English learning centers. One of them being at Astra when I was in like 10th grade, 9th grade. And I've been learning English actually since I was a kid, because I was born in the old town and I was raised there, and I spent my entire childhood in our workshop museum. The thing is, we have a museum on the golden embroidery, and I've met there like a lot of tourists, more than 1,000. Right, and I've talked with them, and they have also talked about the prospect of working and studying in U.S. Not generally in the U.S., but like abroad, right? Because like I've met professors from MIT, from Oxford, from Cambridge, from all those institutions who came to our museum, who talked about the resources and the life in their schools. So I was pretty much inspired by that. After I got 7.5 when I was 14, I joined at Astra, right, to study IELTS and SAT. And when I got already IELTS 8.5 and SAT 1520 in, by August 2024, right, like my basically, like other, like I started working on my other interests, on my other extracurriculars, right? I'm going to talk about my research, about my Minecraft project, and the rest a little bit later. But generally, it all started in the museum and when I failed the presidential school examination.
So from a very young age, you had a lot of exposure to English.
Yeah, pretty much.
You were pretty much surrounded in that environment.
Yeah, but popular to, opposite, right, to popular belief, I've never been abroad for a long time. I've been in Istanbul for 3 days when I was just 9 years old, right? It was in 2018, 2019, and I don't even remember, right, who was there. I wasn't raised by any international parents. I'm purely Bukharian, right? Now, people think that because, well, perhaps they think that it's impossible to get into those schools without being, related to any U.S., right, citizen or something like that. But I'm not international in a sense that I'm not from like US. I'm not from English-speaking country. I am Bukharian, right? Because people contacted me. They said, "Hey, like I know that you are from Tajikistan and then you studied in the US," which is not the case. Right?
Yeah, right. So you, at the age of 15, you decide to do your IELTS.
No. Before that, I was working on my projects as well. I'm just saying that since like age 15, 14, right, I was working on this on a pretty advanced level, right? And in a sense that I already got my results, right, like IELTS and SAT, so I had more time to work on research, right, more extensively, right? And I didn't even stop at IELTS and SAT. I also moved on with APs. If you remember last year, when we had the podcast, I was prepping for APs, right? And I took 3 APs and I got all 5s.
No, what I was trying to say was like you started off with IELTS and SAT.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It's like
for sure.
what I'm trying to do here is to give our audience sort of a blueprint, if you know, so to speak, a blueprint of where things started and what you went ahead and did first, and then how did you proceed?
Oh, yeah.
It's like a lot of the viewers here want to know, like, if they want to get into one of these top schools, where do they begin? Where do they go next? So they'd want you to pretty much lay things out in a clear chronological order. So you started off with IELTS in 2014,
2023.
2023, when you were
13, 12, I guess.
13, 12.
13,
right?
13, 14.
So you get your IELTS the first time, you get 7.5, and then you decide to retake it because you realize it's not enough to get into one of the top schools abroad, right? And can you also say at that time, at that point, you made up your mind to go abroad to study?
Yeah, I mean, I knew about that I'll be studying in the U.S. when I was 6th, 7th grade.
So you had your mind set on that long time ago.
Yeah, very long
So you
time.
come back, you decide to retake IELTS, and then you go and do your SAT. Not exactly in this order, but probably first SAT and then retake
well,
IELTS.
look, I do IELTS first, right? I get my 7.5 in 2023 December. Then I do my SAT until like May, June. I get my 1520. Then I understand that, well, I need to retake IELTS since my IELTS is gonna get expired. Actually, my first IELTS already is expired for like 3-4 months, right? So I'm retaking it in August 2024. I get my 8.5, and I know that, well, that's pretty much enough. And one more thing is that you don't actually need 8.5. Even 7.5 is enough. Right? People get into Harvard, people get into Stanford with 7.5 IELTS. It's just that with IELTS 8, you're better like an English speaker, right? That's what I'm trying to say. But I think that 7.5 is already enough. So IELTS 8 would be more preferable.
So once you had your IELTS and SATs covered, you decided to move on with APs.
APs, yeah.
Right. So
You wanna
explain.
talk? Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Explain to our audience, our viewers here, what APs are and why they're so essential to getting into those universities.
Yeah, for sure. Since I'm applying for STEM, so I'll be studying engineering at Stanford, I had to show them that, well, I know physics, I know chemistry, I know maths on the same level as an American student. And they don't really trust our educational system, right? They don't believe that, okay, so he got, let's say, a national certificate, right? They don't believe that that math is gonna be on the same level as like their AP math, right? So I decided to show them, hey, like even though I'm not from international school, even though I'm not able to do A levels, even though I'm not able to do IB, right? I can do APs. So I studied 4 APs on my own, independently, even though it's supposed to be like studied with a teacher. I studied on my own. I took 3 APs, AP Physics 1, AP Physics C Mechanics, and AP Calculus BC. I would say that AP Calculus BC is the most important AP, right? No matter what anyone says, AP Calculus BC is important for any major, even for a history major, right? So I took all those APs and I got, and I traveled to Samarkand in 2025 May, and I got perfect scores on all of them. And this year I'm also taking APs. I'm taking AP Physics 2, AP Physics C, Electricity and Magnetism, and AP Chemistry. You probably don't understand what I'm talking about, right?
No, I do. I do.
Really?
So it's AP stands for Advanced Placement.
Yeah, Advanced Placement.
Yeah, for those wondering, it's an acronym.
Yes. No, I'm just saying the like specific courses, right?
Well, what I know is they basically teach you those subjects in more depth and with a lot of rigor.
Yep, pretty much.
As opposed to what you get here in public schools.
Yeah, and also it's in English, so I can definitely show them that, oh, I know physics in English, so like don't worry about that.
Right. So if a student wants to get started on their APs, and you said you can pretty much self-study it, where do they do it?
There's like an apostrophe, right? The thing is, you have to make sure that you are, how to put it, well, I took those APs on my own. I studied those APs on my own, but I wouldn't be able to say that everyone can do that. The thing is, I've seen a lot of students who have taken 1 AP and they just got 3 out of 5, right? And I studied for a pretty long time a day, right? So it was more like 12 hours a day, right? I studied for APs. I wouldn't say that that's pretty nice thing to do, right? Given that you have to do your research, you have to do, I mean, by research, I mean the research project. You have to run your own project, you have to study at school. But since I was already pretty much ahead in the school curriculum, I had more time for APs. And I would say that it's better to study with a teacher because you would have far more time on other commitments, on other activities. For example, if you want to study AP Calculus BC, right, next year, right, since the exams are held once a year, you have to, I would say that the best course of action would be joining a center, right, to work to study that AP. And one of those places would be Freshman Academy, right, where we teach APs. And I want.
And he's totally not advertising, guys. This is a legit advice.
That's a legit advice because I teach APs, right?
Yeah.
If you guys want to study in my AP group, you can guys join Freshman Academy. So I wouldn't say that that's the only place. You can for sure self-study, but I'm telling you, you have to spend a lot of time to find resources, to find past papers, to find legitimate lectures, right? Legitimate teachers. But with someone, you're able to, you don't have to look for resources. You're given those resources, and you just use them.
So pretty much you get a head start in this
Exactly.
thing. So the point is making is general advice giving to all those people out there is unless you are nerds like us here and have a knack for studying different subjects, then it's better to, stick with a mentor or some kind of a learning center who can, guide you through this process and make it a breeze. So clear, right? One of the things that I always wondered, even the time when I was teaching you, and you did talk to an extent about this on our last podcast, is your interest in physics.
Yeah.
So why you're so big on physics? Why of all the subjects out there, some people go with IT because it's so hot these days. There's AI, there's robotics and machine learning, and you just want to go into physics, things like rocket engineering. Yeah. So what drives you to do that?
You just promise you're not gonna laugh. It's because of Rick and Morty.
I don't know what that. I know it's
Rick and Morty. Yeah, you
cartoon.
Know. Yeah, cartoon.
Right.
And Rick and Morty, Star Wars, Star Trek, all those movies, all those sci-fi movies, which I watched when I was a kid. When I was watching those movies, the underlying idea there was that you're able to travel across the galaxy, right? You're able to do this through a certain technology called the nuclear fusion propulsion, right? I didn't talk about it before, and I think I'll be talking about it a little bit later, but nuclear fusion propulsion is essentially a propulsion technology of extreme, at the very, very high level, right? Meaning that it doesn't exist yet. It's fantasy so far. You haven't developed that technology, but it is supposed to be 1 million times more efficient than chemical propulsion that Elon Musk uses. He or anyone, right, on the market. And the thing with the nuclear fusion propulsion is that, well, you know what the nuclear fusion reaction is? Yeah, okay, let me just explain that. Like, you got two atoms, right?
Two what?
Two atoms.
Atoms.
Yeah,
okay.
and they collide.
Okay.
When they collide, they release an energy. So you're able to extract that energy for your own use. So generalized idea is this. Right? You probably heard about the nuclear fission in which you split the atom, right? But the nuclear fusion is when you fuse the atom together, right? So you get a heavier atom, but you also extract an energy from it. So this is a general idea. So we already know how to get the energy from the nuclear fission reactions, but not from the nuclear fusion reactions yet. My research, which I want to do at Stanford, and which I am going to do soon with Professor Michael Short from MIT, is going to be precisely to make sure that this technology is coming closer to reality. Now, back to the why I'm so interested in physics is that, well, if I'm able to make this technology come true, nuclear fusion propulsion, then I believe that it would be in no time would be able to traveling to Mars on a daily basis, right? So that's basically a fantasy, right? So far, but it might sound a little delusional, right? But well, if your idea is not just a little delusional, then it's not a good idea at all.
Did you watch Elon Musk's recent demonstration video on their plan to build database centers in space?
I haven't actually.
I think you should go and check it out because they're in that video. I remember Elon saying, and I'm not quoting him, right? I'm no scientist, obviously. That nuclear fusion, there's not enough of it in nature, and that it'd be much better to go out there and harness the energy of the sun.
Well, the energy of the sun is actually a nuclear fusion.
All right.
Well, that's
his point is sun is basically a big giant reactor producing energy nonstop. So just go out there, build technology, and harness that, and bring it to.
You just go build technology on the sun. You build those Dyson sphere around it, and then you harness trillion joules of energy.
Yeah.
That's a plan. That's a very well thought plan. I think that there is still a lot to go until that technology, but at least trying to bring that technology to life is worth of a pursuit, right? Now, okay, that's basically my plan, all right? I mean, I want to do this, and I think that I would be able to do at least something in this field, so I'll be doing that, right? Maybe somewhere along the way I will understand that, well, that is not the way to go, so I'll be spending my energy on something else, but so far I am a big believer that is possible, that you're able to bring the nuclear fusion propulsion to life, right? Maybe not in a way I'm thinking about right now, not in a way that I'm imagining right now, but maybe in a different way, in a different form, right? Have you watched Spider-Man 2?
Starring,
was a Doc Ock. Was the guy
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
he was trying to get like infinite energy, and it was supposed to be nuclear fusion energy, right? Well, people imagined the nuclear fusion energy to be that way, but well, it might look a little different in the future, right? So, well, it's still something that we have to research a lot, and
Yeah.
it's a very underdeveloped field right now, I think, right?
I totally believe what you're saying. What we describe to be science these days used to be science fiction and fantasy and witchcraft. Now it's all a reality, right? People called it witchcraft and would burn witches on the cross, and
So lucky I'm not.
right.
14.
But so, right, if you told someone 100 years ago that would be talking to someone else in the other corner of the world through something called a cell phone, they think you are a magician, a demon.
Demon.
They'd demonize you. They'd cast you out. So, and what I'm trying to say, all these groundbreaking ideas and innovations start out as a thought in someone's mind. And as preposterous as they seem, they might actually be possible, right?
The mind, right? So it might not be as well. So we have to also consider that side of a coin as well, right? But I'm pretty much ready for that, right? If anything, I'll be able to change my major, I guess.
So going back to your academics, I also found out that you were involved in a lot of the national Olympiads.
Oh, not actually that. Let me just talk a little bit more about them. I am not Olympiad kid. I don't have like many Olympiads, national Olympiads. I've been participating in some of the English Olympiads. I've been participating in some of the physics Olympiads. The biggest English Olympiad I've had is actually one that I did like back in 9th grade. So there was an English contest called ELO, right? I don't know how I'm supposed to decipher that. But well, in that examination, I got a perfect score, right? And there was something that no one else I knew got. So there was something that I mentioned in my honors list as well. On top of it, I also participated in this competition called the International Astrophysics and Astronomy Competition, which is not necessarily a subject Olympiad. Well, it is subject Olympiad, but it's an online Olympiad, right? So it was something where you have to register, take the exam on your own, under the, like you have to record yourself, right, doing the exam. That's something which is, I wouldn't say very, 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 very prestigious, but it's still something. I looked for those opportunities, I found them. And well, to my knowledge, there are more than 10,000 people participating. And when I participated there, well, I got the silver honor, right? Which means that I'm in like at least top 5% of the kids who took the exam.
So all these competitions, events, and fairs you were involved in, I think go to demonstrate admissions officers and people who are going to read your application that you have a lot of interest in science.
Yeah. So this competition, they were not supposed to differentiate me. They were just my interest, right? I didn't do them that. I would say rigorously, right? If I did, well, if I actually spend my energy on that, I would probably get something more prestigious than simply like a silver honor, right? So I spent more time on research. So I showed them about my interest in a field through research, right? Which is something that I've been doing for the last 2 years, 1.5 years, I guess. Now, was the...
So when you say research, what do you mean by that? Is that like when you write research papers?
When I write a research paper,
You know, hand them in to someone and then they check and then it gets published somewhere on some...
Well, yeah, this is like very, very down-to-earth representation of what happens. In my case, it was a little bit different. Well, as a high schooler, you're not actually supposed to publish papers. Right? Well, you can't publish papers, but I did publish paper.
Okay, how'd you do that?
Well, I wrote one paper called the comparative analysis of two fusion fuels. It's more like a review paper, but more like useful review paper. Right? For the kids who know about like what review paper is, it is a review paper, but it has some benefit to society. That's what I'm trying to say. Now, I've written that like draft of that paper, and I've sent it to one of the mentors of mine. His name is again Michael Short, Professor Michael Short. He's a professor of nuclear engineering and nuclear science at MIT. He's been working there for the last 15, 12 years, and I've even had an interview with him. If you remember, you've given me advice. So he has written that. I mean, he has read that paper, that draft of my paper, and he has given his feedback. Like he said, okay, so this part is a little off. You might want to focus more on this part, right? And then he gave his feedback. And then I went down and like rewritten the entire paper based on his feedbacks. And I sent it to one of the publishers, right? Who then published it in one of the mid-tier journals. I wouldn't say it's like a Q1 journal, but it's still something. It's still pretty pretty competitive, right? It is still peer-reviewed. I waited for like months, but it's more like designed for high schoolers. But still, it is pretty, I would say, rigorous. The peer review process. This is my first paper, which I published when I was 15. It was back in 2025, April, right? After that, I've written papers much better. One of the papers that I want to talk about right now, more extensively, it's probably going to take like a long time.
Yeah, sure. Take your time. Yeah, of course.
Sure. So there's a program called Horizon Academic Research Program. Yeah, it's a research program for high schoolers, which kind of connect high schoolers, ambitious high schoolers with professors from the top-notch universities like Dartmouth and MIT. And I won a merit-based scholarship from there. It's 6.5K, and it's awarded to only like 2.6% of people, of like 6.7 thousand people. So again, it's awarded to only 2.6% of 6.7K people. It's like very, very, very competitive thing. I've applied there. I won the merit-based scholarship. I got in, and I was connected with a professor. His name is Professor Vladimir Chernov. He's a mathematics professor at Dartmouth College, and I was also connected to a postdoctoral candidate. His name is Dr. Ryan Maguire. He's a PhD candidate at MIT, right? And regarding the Professor Vladimir Chernov, he's a knot theory mathematician. Knot theory. Do you know what is a knot?
No idea. No.
You know? Okay. Do you know what is a knot? Right.
Knot.
Knot.
How do you N-O-D, right? Or N-O?
No, it's a knot. Like that. This kind of knot.
Oh, right.
Yeah. This
K-N-O-T, right.
Exactly. And the knot theory is a branch of mathematics that studies different combinations of knots and like how they differ, right? And he has written a paper, very, very groundbreaking paper on knot theory, which connects knot theory ideas with the general relativity, right? So it's a crazy, nice paper. And to his students, he advises to write extensions to his paper. So like he got a big, let's call it a daddy paper, right? and we write like smaller papers that would extend his results.
Yeah,
so during the entire program, he has had like more than 20 students, right? For the last 4 years, not 20 actually, more than 20, like maybe 50 students. Only, in my mind, only 3 students were able to write paper which were able to add something to his paper, right? So successful papers, like mini breakthroughs. Right? And one of those 3
was yours.
Yeah, it was yours. What was my name? Right? So first guy who did that, his name is Ayush Jain. He's a Princeton student right now, and he's written an amazing paper. Right? I've read his paper. It was, again, very, very much groundbreaking. Second is mine, and it's not that groundbreaking, but still, it has added to the mathematics field, right? I was able to contribute to the mathematics society to some extent with my knowledge, right, from school maths and from my independent
It is
study.
pretty impressive given your age. Like it's not a lot of 16-year-olds out there can do what you're doing.
And third person is he's my classmate, course mate actually from the research program. So we have written it together, but I've written it a little earlier. So I was considered to be like the second ever in the program who was like done something that successfully. And I impressed professor, so now I have pretty good relationship with him. And he's also offered me to write a letter of recommendation, but I'm going to talk about the letters of recommendation a little bit later, okay? So I've written that paper. I've written it like over the course of 3-4 months, and I've put it in Archive. Archive is a archive of the papers which are not published yet, right? But they're still on a on a high level, right? So you can only place your paper on archive, right? Only through endorsement through professors. So I was endorsed by my Dartmouth professor, and I placed the paper in the archive. You can easily read it. You probably are going to leave the link, right?
Yeah, for sure. Like all links you'll be sharing with me, I'll be putting them in the description box below, guys. Go and check them out.
Yeah. Okay, so this was a paper that I've written on mathematics. And one thing that I'm proud to say is that I've given a seminar on this paper for the Dartmouth undergraduate students.
Wow.
Which is nothing. Which is something that not many people can brag about.
Right, for sure. Like it's not like
Yeah.
it's. I'm having a hard time picturing a 16-year-old lecturing a bunch of.
Yeah, it wasn't. It was online, right? I just want to make sure.
I mean, but still, like, it's a. You're a bit of a prodigy. Like that's what they.
I would say that's pretty much an overstatement because like there are so many different kids who are like million times smarter than me, right? And at least I want to spend my time with those kids, right? And at the Stanford and
I think the more practical question, but probably our audience is wondering right now, how do you get a hold of these professors? Like if I'm excited,
that's an amazing question.
yeah, if I'm someone who's super excited about getting into one of these colleges and I want to write all those research papers and that I want all those recommendation letters.
Sure.
How do I get in touch with an MIT professor?
Okay, so I know only. Okay, so let me start with the Professor Michael Short. Back in 2024, you probably remember that I've taken this course called Nuclear Engineers. Like, how to put it? It's a course where you study nuclear science for free in the edX, right, like Coursera. And I've studied that in 2024, and I've liked it so much that I decided to contact the person who taught that course. And the person who taught that course was Professor Michael Short. I emailed him. I said that, hey, Professor, so I've done this course. I really liked it, and I think that I would be like honored to like have a 5-minute call with you, right, to discuss like the future of the nuclear energy and etc. So he said yes. We had a call, and the thing is, I've been like in touch with him for like 6 months before I asked him to write a research paper. Not write a research paper, that's again like an overstatement. Maybe like involve him in my research work, right? So again, like during the 6 months, I've been consistently sending him my updates. I've been building this like personal relationship with him so that like if there's anything I could just ask, right? So that he could say, yeah, sure, no problem.
Yeah.
One more like
That's
no,
very strategic. That's very
also
smart of you.
I was very lucky that I contacted Professor Michael Short because he came to Bukhara.
All right.
Yeah, and I've taken a picture. You probably can like place it somewhere here.
Yeah, please, Mr. Abdul Malik. Photo here.
I've met him in Bukhara and I've showed him the city around. Right, I've showed him my museum. I've showed him the lab house and all other spaces in Bukhara. He liked it so much that like we have been having more and more meetings, right? And right now, he's very, very proud of me because I got into Stanford. And the thing is, we are also going to write a research paper together. Likely, I'm not saying for sure, likely in Switzerland. You know this place called CERN?
I've heard a lot about it. It pops up on my YouTube recommendation
so
page a lot. This is the place where they're studying antimatter.
And that's one of the things that they study. Now, I've applied to this competition with my professor and my team with a research proposal. So if we win that competition, we're going to go to Switzerland at CERN and perform experiments there for 2 weeks. And my professor is going to be, he said he's glad to like visit CERN and help us around with the research paper. And we'll be authoring it together, hopefully.
Yeah, so you've been in touch with this professor for so long, right?
Very long time.
From MIT. It's natural to assume that someone who's been in touch with an MIT professor would apply to MIT.
Yeah, I've applied to MIT, but unfortunately, I received the rejection. I would say that, again, the admissions field is very, very unpredictable. You cannot predict an acceptance. I've never predicted that I would get into any of the schools that I got in. But I would say that there's a pretty good reason why I didn't get in. So
why do you think that?
I think it's because of the lack of Olympiads. I was not interested in Olympiads, honestly. Like if like the people who got in this year, absolutely brilliant people. I even befriended with one of them. His name is Amirbek. He's a current MIT. He's upcoming, right, freshman at MIT. He's absolutely brilliant informatics Olympiadist. He got like ton of Olympiads. So he focused his basically time on Olympiads, right? But I didn't. But MIT values Olympiads. I think that because of that, because of the lack of Olympiads, international Olympiads, right? I was not able to show my competitiveness, right? I was not able to show that MIT spirit, I think, right?
Well, why wouldn't you then sort of redo your strategy around Olympiads?
I tried Olympiads and I honestly wasn't, well, I wasn't interested in Olympiads, right? I did research. I like doing research. I like bringing some new ideas, right? Because Olympiads are pretty hard science. You do problems, you solve problems, you explain the problems. With the research, you bring an idea, test an idea, and like answer, like give an answer to a hypothesis, like solve a hypothesis, like, you know, you basically say, okay, this doesn't work, this works. So you're making a certain benefit to the scientific community. This is something that I was able to do, firstly, and something that I was very interested in doing. Plus is Olympiads, you need to be in this Olympiad pipeline, right? You first of all study in a public school, then you move to Tashkent, study in one of those feeder schools. As far as I know, they're currently feeder schools, private schools basically, Al-Khwarizmi school and even Snow schools. So those schools are specifically designed to prepare Olympiad kids, right? I'm not saying that like being an Olympiad kid is bad. I'm just saying that I am not one of those kids. Right? Plus, I would say that Stanford is no less of a school than MIT.
No, it's...
And plus, at the same time, I got into California Institute of Technology, which is Caltech, which is considered to be a twin brother of MIT. I'll be joining Stanford, class of 2031, not 2030. I'll be taking a deferral year. I'll be taking a gap year. Now, this is a pretty big news, I think, that I'll be taking a gap year. A gap year, not because of the admissions reasons, not because I didn't get in, but because I just want to see the world. I'm only 16. I want to see the world before I go to US, right? And I want to do a lot of stuff before the college starts. Because like right after school, right after studying so much, I don't want to start studying so much again. Right? I might want to, see through what I can do during the college. Because Stanford is a school for entrepreneurs. And I want to start building up my startup from the day one. Not thinking about the startup once I get into Stanford, but start working on my startup on the day one, right? So that is my plan. And also I'm planning to visit countries like Japan, Switzerland, some European countries, and visit some Asian countries, right? Maybe even Australia and all those countries to get some international exposure. Since, as I said, I've been only in Turkey for 3 days when I was a kid, and I would like to meet some foreigners, right? Talk with them, practice my English, see different cultures, right? So that's what I'm planning to do.
There are actually a few more points I'd like to
Sure.
touch on regarding your application, college application, before we move on with the other things we got on the agenda today. And those points I'd like to talk about are about your extracurriculars. So you said you were doing research papers, you were involved in a bunch of projects, right?
Sure.
When you're done with these extracurriculars and your SATs and IELTS and everything, you sit down to write an essay.
Yeah.
So how'd you go about that?
About an essay?
About your college essay, right?
Okay, so I think that's something that I have to mention is that I've joined freshman full support program back in 2025, February. The founder of Freshman Academy is Valera Arakelian, who has been my mentor for like a year already. So you probably heard about him, from him and from his students like Harvard admit, right? Mr. Azizbek, right?
Yeah, he was on the podcast.
Yeah, he also talked about how freshman works. So what I've been doing like for the entire 2025 is writing reflections. They gave me like a bunch of different prompts, and I wrote my thoughts. I wrote my answers to the prompt that they gave me. And based on the reflections that I've had, I wrote my motivational essays, my supplemental essays, and I found out a bunch of things that I didn't know about myself even from those reflections. One of those things being that, well, I'm a very honest person. Well, yeah, I probably didn't talk about it much, but I really want to touch upon this quality of being very, very honest, because I think that this is extremely important. Being honest, being authentic is always better than being pretentious, right? And I'm making such a big like a point here because for the admissions, people change themselves. Like they literally go start doing things that they don't like doing, right? Like volunteering, sports, doing a bunch of
Or poetry.
well,
'Cause
actually, I think that. Well, I think that the activity of a poetry comes from like a genuine love towards the subject. Why would you even do poetry if you didn't like it, right? So this is something that I found out about myself. That okay, why am I even doing nuclear like freaking engineering, right? Being from Bukhara, being from the family of traditional gold embroidery craftspeople, why would I even do that? It's because I really like it. If I really like it, I'm not gonna stop doing it. I'm just gonna do it well for as long as I know myself, right? For as long as I will live, right? I'm not gonna be doing stuff that I don't like. I'm not gonna be doing politics, economics, finance, something that many people do because they are well forced to do. I'm not gonna be doing that. So I found out that okay, maybe I'll be spending more time on something that I actually genuinely love doing, such as Minecraft. Right, so with the Minecraft is my favorite game. I've been playing it since I was 4 years old, since 2014. I've started playing Minecraft before I even started school, right? So just about that. And one of my Minecraft projects was remastering some of the historical buildings, right, in Bukhara. So I have remastered them in Minecraft. So I built them literally, block by block in Minecraft, built the entire old city. I think that I'll be sharing some videos with you. I think that the guys, the viewers would really love to see.
We should. We're gonna put them in the video, Mr.
And
Malik, so
yeah,
kids can
yeah,
see
and
them.
I've also I've also built them in different architectural styles. So, well, let's say Minorai Kalon, right? That's a tower which was so humongously huge that I was afraid of it when I was a kid. And when I was rebuilding it in Minecraft, I made it extra large and I made it extra imposing, extra scary, right? Or Miria Arab Madrasa, right? Which is the closest madrasa where I live. It's like literally like 20 meters away. And madrasa is actually an ancient analog of university, right? And I usually associate universities with the color purple, right? Or like white. So I made it in purple and white. Right, so you see, like there are certain personal associations with that.
So if I download this game, install it on my computer, and go to play it, I'm actually going to see these buildings.
No, actually, well, you don't know about Minecraft. You're losing so much. Wow, that's so that's so strange.
I mean, look at me. I'm old. I'm a millennial.
You're a millennial, okay?
Yeah.
I would say that you gotta do your own research in Minecraft for sure. Minecraft is the most creative game ever. There you can develop your creativity to the max, right? So you're able to do anything. You're able to build anything that you want. Have you played Lego? Right? It's the same as Lego, but 10 times, 10 in the power of 100 times better.
I don't think so. With Lego, I did grow up playing Lego, and it taught me a lot of things, like dexterity. It taught me how to coordinate. It taught me how to calculate things
played
and move
Minecraft?
things over. No, I have not. I've watched
Try
videos.
Minecraft.
Well, the point I was trying to make is when you play Lego, there's that tactile experience, like when you physically touch the thing, when you move it around, when you can feel the weight of it. That's something you cannot get out of Minecraft. That's something you cannot get out of a computer game, right?
Things. And you're not able to build a 49 meter, like 49 meter tall Minorai Kalon using Lego, right? Can you?
Even if you could do that in Minecraft, you still don't get a true sense of its magnificence because it's literally on a small screen, and that's all you see. But when you actually build a Lego, you get a relative sense of what it looks like, what it feels like when you move around it. So there's that spatial awareness that comes with playing with Lego.
Oh, this is a very good point.
Or physical objects. But with Minecraft, you're sitting in your chair and stuck in your room all day long.
Thing to do. You can combine Minecraft and Lego, right? You can try things in Minecraft and then build the things that you build in Minecraft using Lego, right? Bricks. So I think that there are like benefits and the drawbacks of like both of those games.
I've seen some videos of people building entire cities in Minecraft, down to smallest details, like the lobbies, the bathrooms. I've seen this guy build an entire airport with all its terminals and people in it.
I would say that those are pretty synthetic buildings. Synthetic in the sense that they don't have this like soul in themselves, in them. I heard there was a kid who was 6 years old and he rebuilt like New York City. Not in the New York City. He called it a city in Minecraft. It was like a huge like map, Minecraft map with like ton of skyscrapers. But if you just look at them, all those buildings are pretty much how do you call them, cookie cutter, right? Like they're extremely similar. Like why would you do that? Well, you would do that for its scale, right? To show that like you got how do you call it? You got. Okay, I'm not gonna say that word, but you're able to build such a huge city in Minecraft. But with our project, like we put like pretty much more than 150 hours in building maybe like 2 to 3 buildings, right? And right now we have like the entire old town ready, right? And we have made them all with certain personal experience. Like we have all those buildings, they are built in a way that reflect certain personal values, right? As I said, like with Minorai Kalon, with Miri Arab Madrasa, and I can talk about some other buildings as well, but generally speaking, those cities are all very much synthetic, right? They don't have soul. Even though I basically admire those kids who do that. But you can spend your time on something better than just building cities in Minecraft, having your eyes glued to the screen and like just building. Because I think that I've been playing a lot of Minecraft, but I wasn't actually like a zombie playing it 24/7. I was playing it pretty much moderately, maybe like 5 hours a week, maybe like 6 hours a week. Right? Which was, I think, pretty much okay. So I've been doing it for a very long time, but I could build Old Town in Minecraft. And one more thing, by the way, I want to bring it to the audience. I've put my Minecraft project as a top 6 activity out of top 10. And I talked about my Minecraft project in my essays, right? For example, for Stanford, I've talked about it in the roommate essay. There is a roommate essay which basically says, okay, introduce yourself to the roommate. I talked about my Minecraft project. Right? And I said that maybe with you, roomie, we can do the same thing in Stanford. Right? So I talked about Minecraft extensively because that's actually something that I love to do, something that I've been doing outside of admissions. I've been doing it like for freaking like 10, 11 years. And I just included it to the activity list simply because I've been doing it for a long time. It means a lot to me. So here it is, right?
Just out of curiosity, would you be willing to put out your college application essays?
I would never do that. I would never ever do that. I would never ever do that because I think that's a very, very stupid thing to do. Well, there are 2 reasons. One reason is that I've got trust issues with the kids in Uzbekistan because I'm extremely sure, I can guarantee you that 100%, I can bet my house that they will steal something. They will 100% steal something because, they will steal something. That's something that I have. That's a gut feeling, for sure.
I don't think it has anything to do with Uzbek kids. Any kid in the world would do that. If you told them that's how you Stanford or
sure.
Brown University.
Okay, not maybe stealing, but kind of copying, right? Well, if you copy someone who got into a university, right, like your dream school, you're going to copy him, you're going to become just like him, and you're going to lose your originality.
I think you should put out those essays and let people copy them to their own detriment, right? If they do it, they're doing it. They're doing themselves.
But still, there are like a lot of personal experiences out there. I don't want to talk about. I don't want people to know about some of my, let's say, family things, right?
Oh, right.
Yeah,
right.
So I talked about them a lot, right? And I talked about like what that means to me and etc.
Well, that's a whole different story.
But the thing is, since I worked with Freshman Academy, they all have my essays, right? So if they want to show it to their students, right, like let's say model essay, right, they might do that. But I will not send my essays. I will not show it to the people. Maybe with activities I could do that, but still, like there are some information that I really don't want to share.
So why you're comfortable with freshmen sharing your essays with their
because I trust them.
Students.
They're definitely gonna do it
in a more ethical way.
They're gonna do it in a more ethical way. They're gonna say, okay, so look, guys, in this essay, he has done, let's say, a good job in this part. He has done a very good job in this part and a very bad job in this part. So don't do that. Right? So they're gonna show the weaknesses and the strengths of my essays, and they're gonna do it to the people who they are sharing. Right? So they're gonna do it to like anyone. They're not just gonna like make it public, right?
Well, it's just a suggestion. If you want your essay, say, to actually benefit people, you could do a video breakdown of it.
Oh, that's a good thing to
right?
do.
Like you could actually shoot a video where you break every part down.
But
Like
that would be
Freshman
again,
Academy
that would
does.
be more like a teaching admissions, and I've got contract with freshmen that I'm not going to be teaching admissions. And other than contract, even if I didn't have a contract, I wouldn't be teaching admissions because I think that's a very again stupid thing to do. If you just got into college, you don't have rights to go sell the courses like admissions courses just because you got into college. Well, yeah, you got into college, but you're not able to make like other kids get into college, right? Well, especially if if you go commercial. Again, a freshman has been operating for more than 7 years, right? And they have mentors who are in this field for like 5 years, like 6 years, 7 years, and they definitely know what they're doing. They definitely know what to talk about, and they definitely know what a student should do and shouldn't do. Now, I'm not saying that like it is a wrong thing to help someone. I'm just saying that if you make it commercial, if you make a business out of it, that's not going to be a right thing to do because you might be giving some wrong advice. And there has been a case already before somewhere in Kazakhstan. I don't know specific details of that case, but generally speaking, again, the point is that you don't teach admissions once you get in. Plus, I don't have this desire to go and help kids get into top colleges. I better help them write better research because that's something that I'm genuinely interested in. And I'll be well, I already mentioned that I'll be an AP mentor. I am an AP mentor at Freshman. And I'll be also likely be contributing to their research institute. They are building this Freshman Research Institute. Well, I didn't talk with Valera yet about it, but I would be very glad to like contribute somewhat, right, to it because I've been involved in the research, right? So I'd be very, very glad to help them with the advancement of the research culture in Uzbekistan because I think that is it is suffering a little bit. Yeah. The research culture, the researchers, Uzbek researchers, right? Uzbek high school researchers. I think that the quality of their research is pretty. I don't want to say that word, but it is pretty bad. Simply because they do it just to publish it. Right? They just go, they write whatever they want using GPT, using AI, and just say, oh, how can I publish it, right? And the quality of the research is so damn wrong. It's so bad. Because the point of the research as a high schooler is not publishing it, right? People work, they study, they research for 20, 30, 50, 60 years. And only then they publish, right, to a prestigious journal. But as a high schooler, you don't have expertise, right, to publish a good quality paper, right? So instead, you might want to write research to maybe develop a skill set necessary to be able to write that research maybe after like 4 years after you graduate. So one of those skills would be perhaps writing maybe writing codes, right? Maybe coding. For example, in one of the research papers that one of my friends is doing, he's an AI guy, right? So he's going to be writing like codes, right? And like he'll be at least learning how to do that and how to be able to communicate what you have coded in the research papers to the like people who are going to read that, right? So that is one of the skills that I think that a researcher should learn while being in a high school because, well, again, you're not able to contribute a lot to the scientific community by just writing a research paper as a high schooler. And the point should not be publishing a research. It should rather be learning more about your field. Like I learned so much about like the engineering field that I actually changed my major. Right? Remember last time I came as an aerospace engineer, right? Mm-hmm. I'm still an aerospace engineer, but just a bit more focused in the nuclear fusion propulsion. So it's kind of it's in the same family, but just maybe another kid, right? Right? So yeah, that's the thing. So I learned more about my field. I learned more about how to communicate my thoughts properly in the academic English, in the academic language. I also learned talking and connecting with top-notch professors, again, from MIT and Dartmouth. And that's pretty much what I would say about the research right now in Uzbekistan. Again, don't write research to publish, write it to learn more about your field.
But if you could get it published, that's
If
a
you could get
cherry
it
on
published,
top.
oh, that's so amazing. Now, one more thing is that to publish in a very prestigious journal, let's say there's a journal called Acta Astronautica, right? That's like a top tier journal, the best journal in the aerospace. It takes around a year for the publisher to read your paper to say, okay, green light, let's publish it. So for a person who's just starting the research, right, they're not able to write the research and publish it before they apply to college. So people usually apply without publishing it, right? So again, peer review is a process where a publisher calls some scientists, professors within the field who check the research paper and say, okay, so that's a wrong thing that he mentioned, right? So let's ask him to edit it. So they do that, and after 1 year, well, 6 to 12 months actually, you get it published. But again, it is extremely selective, and it's also very pricey. It's $3,000 to publish it. Right. Just so you know. So you just don't have resources and time available to publish it as a high schooler. Instead, again, just get it done, get a recommendation letter from your professor, and that's it. Oh, also with the recommendation letter, should I talk about them, or maybe I could continue with the research?
Yeah, for sure. We can.
Yeah, sure.
I mean, with the research part of it, like a lot of our audience, our viewers, including myself, have a hard time following some of the things you're saying because, as you said, research culture isn't much established in our country. It's not. There's still a lot of room. A lot of things to learn about how to properly research. I did do my own research when I was at university on health and its impact on the economy, but it was very superficial, right? It wasn't something I did for a year. I didn't study extensively for it. It's something I just whipped up in a few weeks time. But like you said, people spend years studying a particular subject and then put together everything from their background reading to their methodology and the results and everything, and then finally publish it.
Yeah, exactly.
So let's pivot in a more practical, more relatable direction and talk about your other projects that helped you get into these universities, like Silk Road project. You got right?
That's a little different.
Silk Orbit.
Silk Orbit, yeah. So
project.
So I've been involved in some of these like local social clubs as well. And again, the point of those clubs, contrary to popular belief, is not to scale it to a startup level and make thousands of connections. The point of that was very, very simple. So I have interviews with professors. I basically have events on the science in in Bukhara. I call kids there, and I have something called a networking session where I connect with them. I help them with maybe their like some science projects, connect them with some of the professionals in their field. So it was a very, very small scale project, and I framed it that way, right? Now the thing is, with that project, right? It is again on a very, very small scale. It's only in Bukhara, but I'm having some plans to make it more large scale, since there are a lot of kids out there in Uzbekistan, right? And the second thing is Resolut, right? It's something which was pretty popular in summer, right? The format of it was that, well, you have a group of, let's say, 5 people. They share their tasks to the shared group. They say, let's say, okay, for today, I have to do, let's say, this IELTS passage, I have to do this SAT passage, and I have to go to my school. So they send that list of tasks, and they send their proofs over the course of the day. Let's say I'm taking a picture of my IELTS passage done, I'm sending it, and it's okay. But if I don't do that, then I have to pay a penalty to the charity. So I donate a certain amount of money to charity. So that was one of the projects that I ran.
I wonder how that project went, because one of the founders of that project, your friend Mr. Niozbek, while he was working with us at Astra, he came up to me asking me to be an angel investor.
Angel?
Well, that's a term, actually. Okay. He's one of the early investors. Like, hey, I got this idea, and we want to do that, and we need help with promotion. We need help with that. Yeah. And I was sitting there, and I laughed at this idea because of how absurd it was. If someone, wanted, how would you? It's a double loss. You see, you're you're late on your assignments or you skip your assignments, and plus you have to pay a fine. I don't think people would sign up for it. That was my thinking at the time. Who would even sign up for it? Like
hundreds of people signing up. Hundreds of people signing up.
I mean, like, so the problem with that idea, I'll tell you exactly what's wrong with it. The problem with that idea is you can cheat, and
people do cheat.
know-
People do cheat, and that's the thing. People do cheat. But why would you join a project just to cheat?
I think it's more like group thinking. You see a lot of your peers headed in that direction. It seems like a cool thing. So you sign up for it, you try it, and your name is there.
Yeah.
You're part of that club. But in reality, there's not much practicality to it. It's not, from an adult perspective, that's not something.
Okay, now I would want to disagree here.
Yeah.
How do you think I got perfect scores on 3 APs while
I think it has zero to do with your Resolut
it
project.
has 150%?
You only think you do because you have a stake in it, because you are one of the founders of this project.
Well, because okay, how did we get to that point? How did we get to that idea?
to that,
The idea was that during the project we were procrastinating a lot, right? So we had a lot of assignments, and like with just 3 of us, like me, Uzbek, and Shokhrukh, all of my Bukharian gang, like we had a shared group chat. We shared our tasks, and if we didn't do that, we wanted to kind of punish ourselves, and we didn't want to give money to each other because that was not going to be okay. So neither of us agreed to it. So we decided to pay to the charity, right, to the animal shelter, and we did, and it helped all of us. None of us failed any exams, and we got perfect scores on every single exam. And during that time, before we took APs, we also invited some of our friends. One of them is Amirbek. He is currently studying in London, and he also got very, very high score in AP Calculus BC, even though he started very late. Now, the thing is,
I think, sorry for cutting you short, this platform, all these instances do not actually go to prove the success of this project. This platform simply served as an excuse to bring these people together and work.
Okay, that was a very,
I mean,
you can think that way as well.
You're being very biased. Like, I'm not being judgmental. I'm only trying to look at it from a fresh, objective perspective. And I could not possibly imagine my child asking me for money because he was late.
Now regarding that.
Right.
Well, we always have this things called disclaimers, right, at the very beginning. We say, okay, look, kid, you are able to pay that, then join. You're able to commit to it, then join.
If you're not able to pay, but you want to join anyway?
Then go somewhere else.
Like you say, exactly. So you're just proving the point that it's an exclusive club. And just to be able to talk to you guys, some bunch of cool guys, they're going to pay.
They could DM us. I never ignore people. The thing is,
Right.
if you check my Telegram, people can definitely agree with me. I never ignore a single person. Since I got into universities, I've had a lot of messages. In my anonymous messages, I had 200 messages. I answered every single one of them.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not joking. I don't ignore anyone. So, and to connect with me or to connect with any of my friends, you don't need a club. Now, to join that club, okay, I mean, you might need to be able to, you might need some money, right? But the thing is, if you're actually committed, you don't need money, right? If you're actually able to do the assignments, then you don't need the money. But I do agree with this point, though, that this financial part was a little bit off, and we benefited also then by just having like a group of people, right? A network of people who were in the Resolut, who were at least committed to fighting against procrastination. At least that was the point, right? Well, we succeeded to some extent, we failed to some extent, but at least we helped pretty large number of people. Though I would say that that is still not a bad idea if you could just tweak some settings, because there is one friend of mine. His name is Bukhara, right? He was in the full support program. He's a founder of this app called Tikoncha, right? Or this company called Tikoncha. And he's an absolutely brilliant person, entrepreneur. And his project is extremely similar to ours, but it's related, but it's more connected with the school, right? So they work with the school. Again, if a student doesn't do the assignments, then you don't necessarily punish them. Instead, if a student does his work, then he's awarded. So that like it's a more like an award system, not a punishment system. So his app was like to some extent better, right? And he won $200,000 investment from president himself. Just so you know. So this idea is still not bad, even though, well, it's not bad, but it just could be refined, right? Instead of having a punishment system, we could have an award system.
What do you get rewarded with?
It could be anything. Yeah, like I don't know. It just some things maybe something exclusive. I don't know. Maybe having your name written on one of the trees somewhere in Sahara. I don't know, stuff like that. So
right.
It could be also monetary award,
right?
Could be anything like that.
If it's a monetary award, then the question is like, who is paying for it?
Well, again, it just.
And how do they make money?
Well, you might have subscriptions,
right?
So it's just all stuff that I didn't think much about. But I'm just saying that this idea isn't actually.
So if this app works on a subscription basis, then you're paying a certain amount in exchange for return on some of this amount, in which scenario you actually end up losing money.
Now what's the point of this app? It's not to like get awards. It's to be able to do your assignments on time, to be able to battle the procrastination. Again, so you are procrastinating a lot. You need some reasons to do your work. So here you are, right? Yes, you are paying. Yes, there are certain, let's put it this way, things that could be worked out, right? But like all in all, I think that's an amazing idea, right? Even though, yeah, you might be right that some things could be improved.
Sure. So we talked at length about your college application. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
Yeah, the recommendation letters. Now, the thing is,
Let's
again, contrary to popular belief, people think that I forced or like I asked or like I paid money to my professors to write a recommendation letter. That is such that's a huge BS, because they offered to write a letter to me. They literally said, hey, you know what? I see that you're doing US admissions and I know that you got good chances. Maybe I could help you there. They said, okay. I said, sure. I mean, how can you help? They said, okay, here you are, the letter of recommendation.
He actually got one from me too. You probably can't remember that. You did ask for one.
Oh, yes, for sure.
I actually wrote it on the New Year Eve.
It was back in 2020.
24.
Right? So it was very long.
I had a deadline, and I did write it.
Yeah.
I went to work that day just for this guy, and I did write that letter because I wanted to just tick this thing off to the list.
Yeah, so
not say I want to take any credit for it, but I do want to just prove the point that you do need those recommendation letters.
And you do need them from people that you work with. You don't get recommendation letter from a professor who just said hi to you. Imagine if it was that easy. No. Plus, you don't ask them for a recommendation letter. That would be so disrespectful. Maybe. I didn't ask them because they told me that. In the Bukhara trip, my professor, Michael Shorty, said, okay, I'm going to give you a recommendation letter because you need one, and that's going to help you a lot, right? And I also had an extensive relationship with him in a good way. That I know him for more than 1.5 years, and soon it's going to be 2 years. And with the professor Vladimir Chernov, who is my mathematics professor, he has literally supervised me on a pretty nice mathematics paper. So I got recommendation letters from them. So again, if you want guys to go to top universities, you have to also prove that you are legitimate. So it means that you are a guy with an institution or a large institution, like a large credit institution or person at the back, right, who's going to support you.
Vouching for you.
In my case, these were the professors, right? And maybe in your case or in some other people's cases, it could be maybe, I don't know. It depends.
A school teacher, maybe employer, a school teacher
or an employer, but principal. I would say someone a little higher in the ranking, I guess.
Yeah, right? Academic prestige.
Academic prestige. So since I got a recommendation letter from MIT and Dartmouth professors who, well, I didn't read the rec letters because I'm not allowed to, but from what they said, they described me as one of the, at least in top 1/top 5% of their students that they met, right? Now, at the same time, you might be backed by an institution, maybe by NASA, right? Literally, an entire company vouching for you because you maybe had an internship, right? So people, admission officers, might just connect you with NASA and say, okay, so this guy actually interned there, so he's very much legitimate. So whatever he has done so far must be nice. At least they're going to think that way. Right? You don't have to give them reasons not to trust you. Another thing, something very crazy that happened during the Caltech decisions. The Caltech decisions were supposed to be out on March 12th, right? But I got my results on March 19th. Because during this 1 week, they did this extensive background check. They said, okay, we don't believe that you're real because you had things that no one in your environment or no one in your city has, and we don't believe that you are coming from this school. And because they don't know my school, which is public school number 1, guys, right? My principal today said to advertise it. It's a public school number 1 in Bukhara. Well, it doesn't exist on the international radar. You cannot actually search for it. We don't have website. We don't have official emails. So they thought that I am well, they just didn't believe that I was real, right? So we had a Zoom call. I emailed them extensively. I had as I said, a Zoom call. And during the Zoom call, they basically wanted to verify that my teachers are actually real, that my principal exists, that I am a student of that particular institution. Another thing is that they also contacted embassy or somewhere ministry, right, and said, okay, is Amirbek Baxshilloyev actually a student in this particular institution? And they verified, and fortunately now I'm an admitted student, right? Now I'm so grateful that Caltech went so far just to verify that I'm real, and because they didn't just said, okay, so this guy is just from Bukhara, we're not gonna do anything with that guy, let's just reject him. They actually wanted to see whether I'm real, right?
You could actually share with them our podcast where you talked about your background. I just wonder why it didn't cross your mind.
Well, they had a Zoom call, and it just all sorted out. The same thing was the Washington and Lee University. They thought that I'm from presidential school, but I'm not from presidential school. And I wanted to make sure that it's very, very clearly written. I'm not from presidential school, right? I'm not a private school kid. I'm studying in the most ordinary freaking school in the entire Uzbekistan. There is no more regular school than that.
Yeah, but
and I could do that, right? If I could get into those schools with enough time and determination, anyone could get in. I'm pretty sure about that. But you need also some sort of luck as well. Yeah, so, yeah.
Someone following your Telegram page would think that you're from presidential school because you got a lot of shots of you being there.
Oh, yeah, I've been there a lot. It's a very nice space. I've even had a volleyball match there. They play nice. I acknowledge that they are pretty good at volleyball.
Right.
It's okay.
Right. I wonder why, of all the universities that you got into, you decided to go with Stanford.
Okay, so
Because
sure.
as someone who got into these big universities, it's a pretty tough choice.
Well, the thing is, people don't have
I'd be very tempted to go to an Ivy League school, which you instantly ruled out.
Well, it was an instant rule. That was a pretty clear choice for me that it's going to be Stanford. Now, let me give you also some more context. It's not happening every day that you're having a student who is having this choice.
Oh, of course not.
It's a problem I'm privileged to have. So one of my mentors, she used to joke that, when you get into several top schools, don't complain that that's a very tough choice for you, right? And she was right. I'm going to complain, right? Because is it Caltech? Caltech being one of the best STEM schools in the entire world, on par with MIT, or Stanford, which is on par with Caltech and MIT, but it's in Silicon Valley, right? And it's also a much bigger school. And I don't think that you met anyone who had to make this choice, right, between those schools,
No,
right?
the first time meeting.
So I chose Stanford simply because it's, as I said before the podcast, it's a combination of Harvard and Caltech, in a sense that Stanford is an extremely huge place. It's just a little smaller than Bukhara city, right? So there are a lot of different research centers, a lot of different places that you can visit, a lot of different facilities, and they specialize in literally almost anything because they are the center, they're the hub of innovation and entrepreneurship and technology, right? Well, if you didn't know, Stanford is located in California, in the Bay Area, San Francisco, and it's in a close proximity to the Silicon Valley, right? So most of the entrepreneurs who are in the Silicon Valley are coming from Stanford. One of those being the CEO of Google, right? I forgot his name, but he's a Stanford alumni.
Yeah.
And there are all sorts of people who come to Stanford and then become entrepreneurs later, because it is an entrepreneurial school. People used to have the stereotype that only like startup founders get into Stanford, because we literally never had any Stanford admin before me. Like there was a very brilliant person. Her name is Farangiz Muradi, right? We had a call with her. She was very glad that I got into Stanford. She's considered to be like the first Uzbek. To give you a little bit context about her, she studied in the Turkey, and she graduated the Turkish high school, and then she took like three gap years, and then she got into Stanford. Her major was finance, and my major is engineering, right? So like there's basically like no other admits to compare with. But from the Central Asia, it's very rare that you get in as an engineer. And plus, I didn't even have anything like startup-ish, right? Like what I had, nothing, literally. And in a sense that like there was nothing related to like AI, computer science, even though a lot of people did AI just to get into Stanford, you see? So yeah, again, with the Stanford. At Stanford, I have this like uncanny belief that I'm able to develop a technology, one which I was talking about before, and make it large scale. Because I would be talking with the VC investors, or venture capital investors, right? Getting investment from them. Well, I still have to research a lot in this field, right? In the startup field, I have to learn more about it, and then go to Stanford and have my own startup, large scaled. One of my plans that I have, which I didn't tell to anyone, well, probably I did, is something as like delusional, right? As I had like 3 years ago, right? 3 years ago, I was a sixth grade kid who failed presidential exam, who had like nothing on his hands, and who wanted to get into like U.S. schools. And now I'm at Stanford admit, and I can also dream big. One of my dreams, right? By 21 years old, like by graduation of Stanford, would be having a $10 billion startup, right? Well, that is very, very, very pipe dreamical, right? Having a $10 billion startup. But, well, getting into Stanford was also very delusional, but I got it, right? Well, at least I would be aiming for that, right? And if I don't get 10 billion, I might get 1 million, 2 million, dollar startup. But it is something, right? You know?
It is. It's a great, I mean, the level at which you're doing these things is, especially given your age, it's unheard of. It's unprecedented. Yeah.
Well, we for sure had some other kids as well. It's just that probably you don't know about them. They're staying low key, right? And I'm probably one of those kids who are just not willing to go public.
Pretty sure I haven't heard of anyone who's doing that in Uzbekistan, right? Those kids are actually just coming up. They're just,
Oh yes, yes, and I think it's because of the very, very big support from the government itself, right? Well, because as soon as Alisher Sadullayev, right, heard about it, he was absolutely happy, and he was thrilled to invite me to the Founders Cafe where I met him, and pretty sure that he's going to connect me with some other people, right, who are going to be also interested in talking to me and maybe helping me in the future, right? And also another thing is that Uzbekistan is one of the very few countries, right, in at least Central Asia, which are very supportive of the youth. Right, so let's say even with IELTS or with SAT, as soon as you get like SAT 1200 plus or like IELTS 7 plus, you are returned money, right? So that's at least something that at least motivates youth. And also we obviously have amazing companies like Freshman Academy, which I want to specify helped me a lot, right, in Uzbekistan, which would be also I think that freshman is one of the few ways to go to top schools there.
You're working there right now, right?
I'm working there as an AP instructor, and I would be also willing to contribute. As I'm saying, I'm willing to contribute. I'm not a research. I'm not a part of the research institute there, but I want to be. Right? I think that I would not have any competition. Right?
Right. So, what is it like working with the Freshman Academy?
Yeah, so recently we moved to office, a new office. It's in 15th floor of Nest One building. It got stunning view, right? And as a Bukharian kid who has never been up second floor, right? I was on the 15th floor. I was afraid to come to the windows. Right? There were the panoramic windows. I was like 2 meters away from them, holding my friend, right? So that I don't feel scared. So. The office is amazing, and I'm moving there to teach hybrid, so it's offline and online. Working there is, pretty normal, I guess. I don't have anything to compare with, even though I already worked as an SAT instructor. Well, actually, after the podcast, I became an SAT instructor. We can probably talk about it a little bit later. So in freshman, so we only recently moved to Tashkent. So before that, it was all like online, right? So now we'd be also teaching classes offline in our office.
Yeah, a 16-year-old has got his own office.
Well, it's not my office. It's more like shared space,
It's
right?
still like working in a skyscraper. That's pretty
Yeah. I have to also mention that.
awesome.
Yeah. So, so what I was talking about, I was talking about the working as an SAT instructor. I joined SAT instruction basically, right? I joined Parviz courses, course center when I was 15. Right? So imagine a guy, fresh 15, 20, 8.5, working, teaching kids who are like 2 or 3 years older than him. That was an experience. That was one hell of an experience because I've been teaching there for maybe like 6 months, right? And I've grown like a lot. Probably my speaking has improved. Probably I've become more confident. And I'm definitely sure that I've become more confident in my knowledge because when you're teaching a subject to someone, you have to be proficient at it so that you're able to answer any questions instantly, right? So I learned a lot, much more about like maths and about English as well, like as a subject, and that's why whenever I am teaching a subject to someone, I am pretty good at it. So I'm teaching AP Calculus BC at freshman, and I think that I'm pretty good at it. I'm confidently saying that I'm pretty good at it, right?
Yeah.
Maybe not perfectly good, but pretty good.
Yeah.
Right? And also one more thing is that, you might be wondering, right, why I didn't join Astra and exactly Parviz courses, right?
No, I'm not surprised at all. Actually, last time I had Parviz on the podcast, he did tell me that you were a bit of a math whiz and everyone would go up to you with the hardest questions and you'd be there to help them.
Well, no, I mean, I didn't join Astra. I mean, why not? The reason was that because I really wanted to work in a very small company. Well, we're gonna call it a company, all right? Very, very small company with only just one person because there I think that I would have a little bit more maybe influence, maybe more benefit. Right? If I worked at Astra, I would be like one of the 50 teachers, but there I'm one of 2 teachers. Right? So at least I help to some extent, like people recognize Pinnacle from Parviz and me.
I think it's a good thing you didn't join Ad Astra. I'm actually very opposed to young, people joining Ad Astra to work here, especially to teach. I don't mean other positions, specifically to teach. It's because we are very demanding of our teachers. You'd be required to do things like grading, keep track of attendance and talking to parents. Right, a lot of the things that would take up your time and drain your energy. So it's a full-time teaching job. But with smaller company like you described, it's there's a lot of leeway. There's a lot of wiggle room. That's what they call it, freedom to operate the way you prefer.
Pretty much. And also our we specifically said that so there's gonna be a 15-year-old kid teaching. If you want to join. Well, join.
Yeah.
Because after maybe like 3-4 months, I was very, very, very good at teaching. After like 3-4 months, I already had people joining courses because of me, not because of Parviz specifically. And I'm very proud of it. All right?
Yeah. Right. You did the bold thing, and that was the right thing to do.
No.
Yeah, I very much appreciate that. Your friend, Mr. Joe Kamilov, Nielsbeck joined our team. I was actually skeptical about him at first, but we decided to give him a shot. He did do great at first, but then he started having second thoughts about staying with us because it was taking up a lot of his energy and told me he wouldn't be able to finish what he started. I was a bit frustrated because I did see that coming. And we just parted ways there. and I
Yeah,
haven't
yeah.
heard
I
from
mean,
him ever
that
since.
that happens. Yeah.
But I'm glad he made that decision. He decided to switch to something more relevant to his future.
Yeah, I
I'd
think
say
that's much better.
much better, a lot better, because teaching English or SAT for that matter, it leaves very a small chance for improvement that would be relevant for your future.
That was pretty much the reason why I left Paris course as well,
Yeah.
right? As soon as he moved to Abu Dhabi, right? Maybe in June, I was already very, very packed with like research and very, very packed with writing essays. So, well, I just said, well, why not just to leave, and
Yeah.
I wouldn't have anything like any consequences, right? So it was okay for me. Yeah. So after that, like there was a time when I was teaching individually, right? So I was teaching like APs primarily. I was teaching AP physics and calculus to students individually, just to have some cash in my hand. Right? Since I was like spending a lot of money on the exams as well. Like just one AP cost 2 million sums. Right. So like for 6 APs, I had to spend like 12 million sums.
12 million.
Well, I'm proud that I covered partially that cost, So then I like started working for freshmen, and well, right now I'm working for freshmen as well. And well, at least I have an experience as a 16-year-old kid. I do have an experience in teaching, so it has helped me a lot. Right? Maybe the initial experiences, they were not the greatest. Right now, I'm pretty comfortable having a like a group class and teaching them a subject, right, which I'm pretty good at. And also one more thing, like about the money and the investment. I'm so glad that my parents are so nice. They are just wonderful because they allowed me to be free. They allowed me to choose whatever I want. How would so my dad, he's a jewelry guy, so he works with jewelry, he makes jewelry, he sells that, and my mom also works within that industry. And my grandparents are also, as I said, I am an 8th generation gold embroidery artisan. Right? So my family has been doing it for like 8 generations. And I'm so glad that they allowed me to do what I want, which is nuclear engineering. Do you see, right, that it's, well, nuclear engineering, there's like a gold embroidery craft. Why? How? It's because like we do believes that we have to do what we actually like. Right? How we would be best at something if we like didn't like something, right? Now, a very, very simple example would be maybe if you like janitoring, right? If you're a janitor, then you must be best janitor in the world. Maybe become a janitor in the White House, right? And make more than, I don't know, like a guy who just finished the college. Right? That's just one of the examples. Maybe start a janitoring company. Right? We're just going cleaning company, right? We're just going clean houses, like large buildings. Just one of the examples. So if you really like it, you can find a way to capitalize on it. You can find a way to make a ton of money. Right? So in my case, I said, okay, look, family. I don't necessarily want to spend my time doing this thing because I'm interested in science and I will be doing science. And they said, well, go ahead. Yeah, that's it. Right? But there should also be trust. Like parents should also trust you. They should also understand, okay, if I'm going to invest in you, in your future, in something in the field which I have got zero idea about, I have to at least believe that you are going to succeed in it. So I showed that they could trust in me after getting like those early certificates, right? So as soon as I got like IELTS 8.5 and 1520, they were already like, oh, okay, sure. This guy is going to figure out something, right? And also, the freshman full support is also not free. Right? It's also pretty expensive. But I would also point out that it got very, very low acceptance rate. So out of like 150, 200 people, they accept only 10 to 15 people. Right? And also those people who apply, they're already very, very correct on their own. Right? And again, with the freshman academy, there's a like kind of a belief out here in Bukhara. I heard from many friends. They think that freshmen write things for you, which is, again, like a huge BS. That's not the thing that they do. They actually make you be someone who can write those things. So there's a very popular saying which I like keep saying to every single admissions kit. You can either be a Harvard guy or a guy at Harvard. It means that you can have the values, the qualities of a Harvard student, but not study in Harvard, maybe somewhere else. Or you can be just the guy who studies at Harvard, like who's just gonna be there, right? But if they write for you, right, and let's say you don't get in, then what you're gonna do? You just wasted your money. That's a pretty stupid thing to do, as I believe.
Or if they do right for you and you do get in,
Then again, after the college, you're going to just what kind of life you're gonna have?
Yeah,
Like
it's
just a fake life. That's not nice. Now the thing is, again, probably Mr. Azizbek already talked about it like before. Well, I don't want to just repeat him, but I would like to say that they do help you at least structure your application, right? So as soon as you get into this admissions world, you don't know what to do, right? Those kids in USA, they do have college counselors in the school counselors, right? You call them school counselors who help them with the application to college, and they know what to do. They know how to write stuff, right? But we don't. Like we have to look for the resources on our own. But since the resources out there might not be of the best quality, they just allow us to eat the resources which are of the highest quality. Well, to be very, very abstract. And also, I mentioned Harvard before because Harvard is like known to be like the most competitive, and it's like kind of pinnacle of like school, U.S. Schools. That's why I mentioned Harvard. It could be any school, right?
how did your parents react when they found out?
Oh yeah, that's also an interesting thing. With Caltech, I was sure that I'm getting in. Like I was 100% sure because why would they do 1 week of this background checking, of verifying, of having Zoom calls if they didn't want to admit me? Like why?
Did they tell you they were
No, they
looking
didn't
into
tell
your
me.
past?
They didn't tell me, but it was very obvious to me. It was very, very obvious because why would they do so
if
much?
your results get delayed, it's an indication they are looking into you.
Well, in that specific context, with the Caltech, they did a lot of work with it. They did a lot of work with my documents. They called the embassy. They said, okay, let's do a Zoom call. Why would they do a Zoom call with the person who's going to get rejected? And also, during my Zoom call, they said, okay, look, Amirbek, your acceptance or like your decision depends entirely on this meeting. So I was already very stressed. And that's how I understood that, well, since I'm clear, since there's nothing I lied about in my application, I'm getting accepted. That's it. That's how I knew about it. My parents, they didn't know much about it, right? They didn't know about this like science. But as soon as I told them that I got into Caltech, my mom doesn't know anything about those US schools, but my dad knows about them. He was absolutely thrilled. He was like, oh my God, you really got in? It was full right? So I'm not going to pay for your education abroad. Yeah. And after that, he made me a present.
So like,
and yeah.
how did he react when he?
Stanford?
Yeah, when he got.
Oh,
into
with Stanford, it is absolutely different thing because I had zero ideas that I'm getting in. I was sure that I'm getting rejected. So I just checked it in the home of my friend again. So I was there. I was just like half awake. I was just scrolling the phone, and then like Stanford decision, right? Letter. I'm checking it, and there's congratulations because I would never think I'm getting into Stanford. Like, how could I even imagine that? It's like least possible school in my list. Stanford was least possible, like literally. I had zero chances for it. I thought I have more chances for MIT than I thought I have more chances for Caltech. I thought I have more chances for every single school but Stanford, right? Every single school combined. So when I checked it, I screamed out loud. I said, I got into freaking Stanford. And then my friend said, hey, you know what? Maybe you're going to keep it down. I said, no, go to hell. I'm not going to do that. I got into like freaking Stanford. Right, and then I called my dad, and then he said, "Okay, Stanford? Are you joking? You already got into your like dream school, right?" I said, "No, Stanford. There is Stanford also." Right, and then he checked like all about Stanford. He knows about Stanford. He knows that that's like one of the best schools in the world, on par with Caltech and MIT, as I said, and Harvard. So he was also very, very excited. And they don't like to show their reactions, right? They don't say, "Oh yeah, like Amirbek." They don't do that. They just say, "Good job, son. Now you can do anything that you want." But again, there is still like a trust, right, between my dad and me. I don't just go and do anything that I want. In a sense that I do stuff with a certain limit in my mind, right? If you know what I mean, right? He said, "Okay, go to Tashkent, spend your spring break doing anything that you want out there, like buy anything that you want," which I did. And I'm one of those rare friends, one of those rare people who, if you say, hey, I'm going to buy you that thing, or like, hey, that dinner is on me, I said, sure. Right? So it's probably not a very popular thing to do, not a very popular quality, But if people is offering, if a person is offering, right, he's saying, okay, I'm gonna pay for the dinner, I'm gonna pay for this thing, okay, do whatever you like. I will do that. I will take that freaking opportunity to the max, because that is one of the qualities that I learned from freshmen. Making like full use of my resources, being like 100 times more resourceful, right? If I have opportunity to do something, I will do it. Right? I'm not gonna just stand by. If there's like let's say, a professor, right, passing by the at Astra, I'm gonna just jump out of this window and say, hey, I will do this. It's not a joke. So that is something that I learned to do during freshman academy education. Basically, my time there. So I have this ability to connect with people. If there's a certain trouble, then I can probably contact them. Maybe if it's with the research, I can say, hey, I've got this thing with the research. Maybe you can take a look at that, and I can connect with the right people. So at least this is a quality that I learned from Freshman Academy, which is very, very useful thing.
That's admirable, trying to make the best of every chance you got. It's for sure. Like when you try to make the 100% of everything you do, it's all gonna stack up and
for sure
amount to something monumental eventually.
Yeah, one more thing. I was reading this manga called Blue Lock. It's an anime, right? So we talked about anime last time.
We did.
After that podcast, I started reading this manga called Blue Lock, and in one of the chapters which I read of that, it's like comics, right? So one of those chapters, it was New Year Eve. It was like 11:50. There was a guy who said, okay, you have to do, like, as soon as you wake up in the morning, the first thought that you have to have is, how do I become the best in something? Mm-hmm. How do I become, like, so good at something that everyone recognizes me as, like, the best? So this was the philosophy that I started my 2025, right? As soon as I woke up in the morning, I was thinking, okay, so what I'm going to do today? I'm going to do, like, AP. So I have to make full use of this day. I might not sleep, let's say, for 8 hours. I might sleep for 6 hours, but I'm gonna finish what I want to do today, and I don't waste any second. At least I try not to waste any second, right? I don't doom scroll. I don't have Instagram. Well, I do have Instagram, but I don't use it. I do have YouTube, but I don't use the YouTube Shorts. That's pretty. Again, I think that that's a pretty dumb thing to do, to scroll the Instagram for 5 hours, 6 hours, right? Maybe I might use it for some. To get some news, maybe to connect with people, but for sure not doom scroll and not eat this brain rot content. Like there's a popular thing called brain rot content, which is so that's so not nice.
What are some other important habits do you think a person or student should have to be to set themselves up for success in the academia or moving forward in life?
I think that it's being just a little bit delusional. And hardworking at the same time. So getting 3 APs, and that year, 2025, was the first year people were doing APs. People said, okay, just take one AP, right? Take calculus AB. AB is like a level 1, right, of math. But I did calculus BC. On top of that, I did physics 1. And on top of that, I did physics C mechanics. And I was like, okay, so I'm either getting 5s on all of them or I'm messing up, right? And I got 5s on all of them. And I was hardworking because I was spending obviously a lot of time on preparing. And the thing is, what I've done with those 3 APs, it's nothing, right? There are kids out there in the US who do 8 APs, right? 8 APs, just can you imagine that? That's more than I did in the last 2 years, right? But still they have they are evaluated at their own context, obviously, right? If I'm not having opportunity to do, let's say, 15 APs, I don't have opportunity to do even 1, right? I have opportunity to do only 0 APs, but I did 3, and I'm doing 3 more. That is considered to be a little bit more, I would say, outstanding, right? A little bit different than if you are in a school which offers 20 APs, but you're doing only 10 of them, right? You see? So again, the kid in the US is not making the full of all the APs, and a kid from somewhere in the village, he's doing, he's taking the full use of all the opportunities that he got, and beyond. So I don't have APs here, but I still do them because I found out about those opportunities in Samarkand, in Tashkent, and I did that, right? But still, again, you are evaluated at your own context. There is something called meritocracy. If you it's kind of hard to explain for me, but it's basically that if you're not given 100, let's say, if you're not given resources, right, how you're able to do anything, right? If you're not given, let's say, a private school with college counselor, how you're able to apply to U.S. schools and have great extracurriculars, great academics, and great essays, right? But if you do that without private school and college counselor, that's like something that they really, really, really like to see. And on top of it, I think that there's also like this matter of luck, right? Obviously, I do have this like interesting story since I'm coming from the family of craftspeople and I'm doing nuclear science, and they're like, oh wow, how come this is happening, right? They might also like this story a lot, and that's why they might have admitted me because of that story and because how the story touched them, or like maybe because I have done like good job communicating that. Since okay, like there are a lot of people who do work in the workshop in the museum, and there are a lot of kids who do STEM, right? But is there a person who does both and at such specific level, right? So it's a golden embroidery craft plus nuclear science. So is it something that everyone does? No, it's not. I remember that some time ago, I do remember this in either your lecture or Parviz's lecture or Marhaba teacher's lecture, who was my SAT instructor in maths. She said that, okay, so a person is basically just a data point in a trillion exile graph, right? So, well, you know this graph, right? With like X and Y axis. Yeah. Well, you might have also like trillion, like infinite, basically different axes, right? And you might have a certain point in each of those axes, right? Let's say I might have 5 in X and let's say 4 in Y, like 3 in Z, right? Obviously, individually, there is someone who has 5 in X. There is someone who has 4 in Y. But is there someone, right, who has both 5 in X and 4 in Y? You see basically what I'm basically saying? So you are basically a unique point. You're more like an intersection of all those things. Now the thing about it is that
all this. I'm a little bit lost here.
Okay, well, I'm just saying that everyone is unique, and it's more like a collection of things that you do. It's not just one thing that you do, it's more like a collection of different things and how they form your personality.
Yeah, I just realized it was for sure not my lecture. It must be one of those math lectures.
Yeah, Marhaba, yeah. So probably one of her lectures. Right. So definitely this is something to consider. And again, there are a lot of kids who say, hey, I'm like from, let's say, this public school in some of the villages of Uzbekistan. I want to do, like, let's say, physics, but I have no more resources, right? The thing is, they do have resources, they just don't know about them. You just have to make sure that you would do an extensive research in whatever field you have so that you know everything about that field, at least within the environment that you are in, and then look for other opportunities.
It reminds me of a scene from Iron Man 1 when the company owner, CEO Abu Daya, he scolds one of his scientists and says,
exactly, yeah, regarding that, exactly. As I'm saying, well, if the kid from a public school of Bukhara at 16 could get into Stanford, Brown, and Caltech, how couldn't you, like, having the resources far more than me, right? Having far more resources than me, somewhere in Tashkent, let's say, right?
That's a very simple principle. It's a concept you will probably come to realize and appreciate later in life. You see, the absence of resources actually creates necessity. And the abundance of resources creates no necessity.
Yeah, pretty much.
Right?
Yeah.
That explains why people who come from less privileged backgrounds are more likely to get into those top universities, and they're more likely to go on to make those groundbreaking discoveries than those people who are born with a silver spoon in their tongue. So it's a necessity thing. Necessity is a mother of innovation. As cliche as it sounds, so it comes from necessity.
I think that it's still like it depends on people. There are a lot of like Tashkent kids who make so great, who do so like amazing things, such amazing things that I can't even comprehend. Right? There are people who do research in nuclear physics. Well, far more complex than mine. With professor, right? But we just don't know about them, right? And Well, okay. Well, these are just things.
I think we
Well,
do know there are very few people who got into these universities.
but there are some people who don't talk about
Or
themselves,
really,
right?
I
Well,
thought when once you get into one of these universities, everyone starts to talk about it.
okay.
At
Let's
least in
say
the
let's say that there's a guy.
college
Let's say there's
community.
Amirbek, right? Let's say Amirbek version 2, right? He's from like parallel universe. He has been in Bukhara. He's been doing his stuff on his own without a connection to any admissions, right? He has been doing it for a long time. He's been researching. He has maybe had his dad, right, who also like studied in one of those schools, and maybe he helped his son get into one of those schools. How would someone from Tashkent would know about this case? There wouldn't be anyone. I don't think that if you get into top school, everyone should know about you. But if you get into top school, you might want to share that information, right? Like, why not? Why not? What's the worst? Maybe there are some people who
I'd
wanna
love
say,
to hear
"I'm
from
nobody."
your friend who got into MIT, Asilbek.
Asselbeck, yeah.
Right? Can we have him on the podcast one day?
I'm gonna definitely ask him. He's absolutely like crazy cracked individual. Before I got into Stanford, I thought, okay, so MIT Caltech, so MIT and Caltech is like a college rivalry. Yeah, so both of them got this mascot beaver. So MIT got the beaver Team Beaver. Their mascot is Team Beaver. They copied from Caltech. Caltech was the first one who just came up with the mascot of Beaver. I said, okay, hey, let's do a Beavers meeting. I said to Beck. Before we met, I got into Stanford. I said, no, I'm no longer a Beaver. Sorry. So I think it would be great to have him here as well. I'm gonna ask him for sure. And I'm also gonna give his context. He's not the only guy who got into MIT. There's also another friend of his, Elbek.
I think, reached out to that guy who's very quiet. He did appear on
Both of them are so very, very busy, unfortunately, because like they're preparing for international mass Olympiads, so they also got their own stuff. Since I live in Bukhara, it's pretty easy for me, right, to commute.
We can arrange a one-day trip. That's totally possible. I mean, like I said, it's
And also all the kids that I know, well, not kids, I'm much younger than them. All the people who got into those top schools, they're all extremely smart. Right? I'm like an intellectual peasant compared to them, right? They're all so smart that you're like, oh my God, how could I be in this environment? Right? But obviously there are certain reasons why you get in. You might be good at something that they're not good at, right? I've shown my excellence in my field in different way, and they shown in different way, right?
There are certainly levels to it.
Yeah,
Right.
for sure.
Wow, that was quite a lot of talk.
Yeah, for sure.
About everything. So, what are your other personal interests outside academics?
Okay, so
Other than playing Minecraft and volleyball.
okay, that was a very good question.
Do you sometimes swing by your dad's workshop and help?
Swim by?
Swing by is like drop.
Oh, okay.
inside.
Sure. I probably forgot those like IELTS times.
It's like just say hi, Dad. I'm here
Well,
to help out.
I live there. Oh, by the way, about my workshop, I think you might want to put a picture right here. It's a huge place. It used to be school of my grandpa. He studied in that school. He purchased the school and converted it into museum, workshop, and house for my uncle and their family, my dad, my mom, and basically my family. Like, could you imagine that, right?
Yeah, so it's
He
three
purchased-
households living together, right?
Yeah, and he purchased the house. He purchased the school where he studied. That's probably the dream of like a lot of different people. Oh, I'm gonna purchase my school when I grow up, right? I heard a lot of friends of mine saying, but like it was a pretty big place in the past. Right now, it's a little bit smaller. I live there. It's on the second floor. You've probably like passed by for sure. It's next to Tokizargaron. What was it called? Dome, right? And we do have a lot of tourists there, and I would be very, very privileged to see any of the viewers, and obviously you there. Maybe someday on the Bukhara Culture Appreciation Day, you might drop by.
right, for sure.
Right.
Like, and do you have any embroidery skills, like artisanship skills?
I would say that I've done well enough for in that case, since I've been in the workshop for a pretty long time, since I was a kid. And the thing about the embroidery is that it's not a single person thing. There are at least 5 people involved in making even like a small like a thing, right? A small picture. because it takes a very, very long time to make anything like a wall hanging carpet or a chapan, right? You're gonna show it, right?
Yeah.
Sure.
We do
Chapan.
need photos.
For example, one of the things, one of the chapans that we made, it was done by a team of 5 professional gold embroidery craftspeople. I've also contributed somewhat to it, and it took them 7 months of consistent work, where they worked from 9 a.m. until 5 p.m. 7 months. And currently, that chapan is in the newly built Islam Center in Tashkent. It is in like at the back of the like I don't know, probably like modern section of it. If you know, there's like a Islam Center out there in Tashkent.
Yeah.
They built it like a huge one, and they purchased from us that chapan.
So how much do these chapans sell
They
for?
are extremely cheap. $10,000, I guess, around $10,000 to $15,000.
$15,000 for a piece of coat. It's
Yeah, but the thing is, we as I said, it's gold embroidery, so we use golden threads. We order from India. They have a certain percentage of gold, like 10 to 15%, and we sew. Well, we use this special technique called couching. I think it's a little bit different to show, but we essentially attach the golden, basically threads with the ordinary threads. Right? So it's gonna glow, but it's gonna stay out there, right? So this is how we do that.
so you weave them in.
Yeah,
Weave them
yeah,
together.
exactly. That's how we do that.
Right.
And also there are a lot of different ways you can sew, right? Stitch. Sorry, you have like 30 different stitches. And my grandpa is one of the few people who engage in this craft, which is actually unfortunately disappearing. It's like in the red book, right? How do you call it in the?
It's called the Red Book
Yeah,
of
the
Uzbekistan.
red book of Bukharian craft. So yeah, so
That
again,
book is for animals. I didn't
one
know.
of the few people who do that, and he has written a book, entire book, where he describes every single technique that he uses, everything about from the history of golden embroidery to the future of golden embroidery, so that future people who want to do golden embroidery can do that. And also, my grandpa is an exceptional individual because he has participated in like festivals, right? Craftspeople festivals. Every single year since 1991, he hasn't lost at all. Like he has got gold in every single festival. Could you imagine that? Like he got more awards than anyone out there. And that's like he was awarded National Master of Uzbekistan. I think it's called that, like National Master. And he's basically very, very respected individual in the field. And I definitely like deeply admire him. And as I said, he hasn't lost at all. Like every single competition he participated in since 1991 is gold, right? And he has like 30, 40 golds out there, right? Another thing is that, have you been in this large concert hall in Tashkent called the Druzhba Narodov, right? How do you call that?
Yeah,
Yeah, so that place. And there's like a huge, how do you call it? Like this thing that,
carpet.
not a carpet, but like curtain. Yeah, exactly, the curtain. So that huge curtain, which is like 20 meters by like, I don't know, 40 meters, right? That thing is like a first big project of my grandpa. He made it himself. He was the director of that project, and it was like in 1980s. It's a huge thing. It's a very, very huge thing. And like he describes about his experience in the book, and he's absolutely stunning individual. I've taken him for granted, actually. Like I was like, okay, I've been born in this, like some embroidery people, family. Oh, I want to be like someone else, right? But like, as soon as you get into the history of your family, as soon as you understand, okay, that is something, that's a legit, that is so crazy, that you just start admiring them and start seeing them a little bit differently. So I have definitely taken them for granted for a very long time. My basically like familial history, and now I'm very, very aware of it, right? And I want to make sure that everyone knows about it as well, right? At least people who are interested.
So now that you are going to be moving to the U.S. to study, who's going to carry on the family
The
legacy?
thing is, it's primarily it's been man's job for a very long time, but since it's not a good thing to just force men do it, right? We also have women out there, right, who want to engage in this craft. We do have my sisters and my cousins who are also willing to engage in this field, and I'm also willing to do something with this. Basically, resource of mine, as I said, that's one of the resources. That's one of the ways I could go about in the future. If I want to come back, if I want to make it bigger, I could potentially work on that thing, right? And maybe make it internationally recognized. Because so far it's nationally recognized, but not internationally.
Right. A lot of history and culture behind this art. I'm just starting to find out about it. It's so fascinating.
Yeah.
Always used to wonder why people would pay, you know, they would pay a lot of money to buy a piece of carpet. So I heard recently one of those carpets in the old city sell for $240,000.
That's just
Is it an exaggeration?
no, it's okay.
A piece of carpet.
One of the carpets I saw was 1.5 million. So it's you cannot surprise me with like that number. but there is a reason.
$1.5 million.
There's a very huge reason for that. First of all, they don't really have any they don't have to just have their money lay around somewhere in the safe. They could just go and buy that. They do have this ability to purchase $1.5 million carpet. That's one thing. Another thing is that why that carpet costs 1.5 million. As far as I know, it is all handmade, right? It's all handmade. So you have to have professionals working like all day long, working, like double shift, triple shifts, as I heard from one of the stores out there in the old town. And they have to use special, basically silk, right? They have to order certain like dyes to color the carpet. So it takes a lot of time, right, to do all that. And they're also very, very nice if you just fill the carpet. But for a person who has never seen like $1.5 million, like, in real life,
Like us.
it might seem a lot. But for those guys, it just, well, okay, sure, it's just 1.5 million, like might be a good carpet. And also that $1.5 million carpet is going to be like a huge carpet, which is going to be sitting in the hall, maybe over there like business center where they're going to be meeting with billionaires, right? Maybe just to impress them with their $1.5 million carpet. That still sounds ridiculous for us.
Right.
But for the guys out there abroad, that might not be that ridiculous because they have something else much more expensive than this. There are people who purchase pictures, right? Or paintings.
Right.
Okay, they purchase paintings for millions of dollars.
No, that's for a tax write-off. That's a whole different thing.
Why?
Why?
It is not. The carpet, I think it has some practical use.
I'm not talking about I was talking about paintings.
Oh.
Paintings are mostly for tax write-off. It's a tax evasion strategy. Billionaires and
conspiracy
millionaires
theories,
right?
Conspiracy theory, right? I don't actually support. I don't honestly support many of these conspiracy theories because they're usually BS.
Talked quite a bit about your interest in artisanship and carpenting.
It's not my interest.
Right, that's not your interest, though.
Let's just say that it was a story about $1.5 million carpet.
Okay, right. We're about to wrap up the podcast, and usually
Actually, you want to wrap up the podcast, okay?
Well, sure, we can go on for as long as we want, but my camera guy tells me we've got 15 minutes left.
Yeah, sure, it's okay. It's okay.
Literally 15 minutes left on the camera.
Yeah, sure.
So, but if there are other things you want to talk about, we can totally get into them.
For sure. Yeah, we could do it.
So,
maybe outside of the interview, right? The podcast.
Right. But something that might be of interest to our audience. Is there
Yeah.
anything else you think you should be sharing with
Well,
viewers?
I share like pretty much a lot, I guess. But I think that something that I want to say is that, okay, if you want to start, right, preparing for the colleges, you have to start as early as 6th, 7th grade. Right? I personally started back in the 7th grade, right? I was like, okay, there is this opportunity. I'm going to do that, right? And I started prepping. I started doing my stuff. It was considered to be like early, right? So people start saying, hey, you know what? You might want to take a time off. Maybe you want to go for sports. Maybe you want to do that. But I knew that, okay, I mean, if I do that, I'm not going to have time for my preparation. So I just didn't do that. Right? Even though a lot of people said, okay, you have to go to sports. You have to do some stuff outside of just studying. But since I really liked it, I really wanted to make sure that I could sustain myself by, knowing physics. And I'm at least on the path of doing that, right? Since I got into one of the best schools in the world, and I'll be studying engineering there, I have this at least plan in my mind to start a startup and then make money out of it. Right? Which is money again. It's like a secondary, right? Priority. The first priority is the science itself, because if you have an amazing idea, money is always going to follow you for sure, right? So that's the plan that I've got. And another thing that I want to say is that do stuff as early as possible, yes, and do stuff that you actually enjoy doing. Right, so don't do volunteering just because people say, hey, do volunteering. People talked about volunteering a lot, but the best volunteering I got is like Resolut project that we talked about. That's the highest level of volunteering that I did. And people also said, hey, you know what, you might want to do a lot of like online courses. Okay, I did online courses, like edX courses, right? Like EDX, Coursera, MIT OpenCourseWare, but I did to the extent that I really wanted. People do like, they stack all this like certificates. Those certificates are pretty useless. I use that certificate at least mindfully, right? I connected with an MIT professor, and now because of him, I'm likely getting in, right? Because of, like I know him very well, and then he has helped me with the research, right? And etc. So another thing that I want to say is that don't be like demotivated by the lack of resources that you got out there, right? I'm from Bukhara, and you know, as a Bukharian, what kind of resources we got? The closest nuclear reactor we got is 2 oceans away. Right, so it's that far away. So I wasn't able to do necessarily a lot of practical research, but I did to the extent that my environment allowed me to. And I think that you might want to follow this basically like a small pipeline. So you start with IELTS, then you move on to SAT. At the same time, you do basically APs, right? But I would even encourage people to do IELTS first, then APs, then SAT. Maybe SAT, APs, then again SAT. Right? Maybe, basically you got me, right? So you first start with great English foundation, which you can get from studying IELTS, right? Maybe in some IELTS centers, then studying SAT to get some idea of how they, like English math works, how people basically communicate in English in the academic world, and then focus on your basically major by studying APs, and then basically maybe join one of the admissions programs, right? One of them is, again, Freshman Academy, and I'm a huge fan of them because they're one of the only, I'm not saying it is the only, I don't want to say anything controversial here, it's just that I really love Freshman for being legit, right? It does its stuff on its on a very, very high quality, and at the same time, they it is all very fair, right? They don't, as I said, do anything unfair. They don't engage in any unfair practices, and that's what I love about them, right? And if I didn't get into any colleges, I would be still satisfied with their work. I would still be satisfied with however they helped me, because after like basically let's say admissions like life, right? After admissions decisions, I would be able to at least know what I like, and then I would be able to pursue in the direction which I basically enjoy. Let's say if one of my plans for the gap year was, if I didn't get into any colleges, was to do a research in Samarkand, right? Was to do an internship in Samarkand with Professor Akmal Safarov in the Institute of Nuclear Technologies, right? I was gonna do it there. If I didn't get in, I would be still like following the path that I wanted. I would be still working on the project that I like, and I would still be like working on the Minecraft project, on the Silk Orbit project, and the rest, but maybe on a little bit different scale. Maybe next year I would be able to communicate my values a little differently, right, than this year if I didn't get in. So I still had some nice gap year plans. Right? So I wasn't like completely lost. But what if a kid, like if a kid pays and then everything is done for him and he doesn't get in? What's gonna happen to him? He's like completely lost, right? So that's something that I absolutely love about Freshman, right? And also the network, Freshman network, is one of the strongest in the entire Uzbekistan in terms of like admissions, right? And again, if you guys want to do the like admissions, right, then Freshman Academy is the way to go. Maybe not their full support program, right? Because it's very, very selective. And maybe something else, right, that they offer. I would for sure recommend. You've had a podcast with Valera, right?
I've had a podcast with a lot of the Freshman Academy guys.
Yes. And now I'm one of those Freshman Academy guys, and you know me for a very long time, so you can definitely see like where this fascination with this Freshman Academy is coming from. Freshman is actually now becoming far more than just an admissions course. It's becoming like a hub of like basically of this how to put it, basically of use, right? Young people making something amazing. One of them is, again, as I want to repeat myself, Freshman Research Institute, which is like opening pretty soon, right? With some of the new freshman teammates, right? And we are also doing APs, and we are likely going to be doing SATs in the future. But primarily what I'm talking about is that freshman is going to be pretty big like name, at least in like 1 to 2 years. And people from Bukhara are going to know about Freshman Academy. It is popular, but it's going to become much, much more popular.
Unless we beat them to it. Or do you think we still have a long way to go?
Well, again, like
I could read your face, instantly. No, wait, no hell.
Okay. Well, you guys operate on a completely like different environment, right? So it's IELTS preparation of preparing students for freshmen, right? Like I wouldn't be able to do freshman without like at least the base that I got in Bukhara, right? So I studied IELTS, then I studied IELTS here in Astra. And that's why I had pretty nice idea of how English language operates. And then I was able to join freshman and then use that knowledge of mine to get into the schools. Right?
Yeah.
But again, like the achievements, right, of a person should not be confined to like just getting into school.
Yeah, for sure.
If the best thing about you is the schools that you got into, then you did such a bad job in making the use of that school. Imagine that, right? If Mark Zuckerberg, right, was known because he got into Harvard, or like who was his name, Bill Gates, right? Like we know about them because of their products, because how they benefited the world in one way or another, not because of the school where they studied. Right? But if you come from, let's say, Stanford or like Harvard or like MIT, and then the best thing that people can talk about, oh, it's that MIT guy, right? But nothing else. I think that's a pretty like not.
It's very helpful that you have this mindset where you don't see what you have accomplished as the pinnacle of what you can be. You realize that there is so much more to you than just a college degree, and that's very promising.
Also, one more thing is that I really, really want to mention. Probably the last thing is that. There is happening like a huge brain drain in Uzbekistan, as you know. People go to US, they don't come back. I think that, I'm not saying that you should come back or you must come back. You must be a patriot or something. It's just that, like Uzbekistan actually helped you get into those schools. I would be pretty sure that as a Bukharian kid, right, I might have less chances if I was from, let's say, USA, something in the middle of the Boston city, right? I would probably have lower chances with the applications that I have right now, since the context itself helped me a lot. So that's one, like basically thing to thank the city for, to thank the Uzbekistan for. And as we're saying, why not come to Uzbekistan and make like Uzbekistan actually like a great place, right? Because it is basically where you live, and there is a ton of things that you can do here. Like let's say the research, right? Culture, it's underdeveloped, and one of my plans was to come back to Uzbekistan and make the research culture flourish, make science, be like a. Did you know that Bukhara was actually a scientific center in the past?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, and right now we don't know about Bukhara because of it. We know, like tourists at least, right? They know about Bukhara as like, oh, it's that ancient city with like long past traditions. Traditions. I mean, history, right? We know about Bukhara as like an artifact, like something. It's literally a living artifact. That is not necessarily the case, right? At least I want to change that opinion, right? Because Bukhara can and will have a capacity to innovate and to show that science can also emerge from places like Bukhara.
With kids like you, our country is headed toward a very bright future.
Well, I hope so.
Mr. Amirbek, it was such a pleasure talking to you today. It was fantastic. I'm really glad you walked us through a lot of the things you did to go from being a sixth grader to getting into some of the best universities in the world. So I appreciate you coming on the show today, and I hope to see you one day again.
Yeah, for sure. You're gonna see me sometime soon. And I didn't forget the promise. If you remember, do you remember the promise? You don't remember?
Promise was
Oh, you're getting old.
no.
You're getting old.
I do remember the promise that you would send me a photo from SpaceX.
Yeah, I've got some better pictures to send sometime in the future.
Okay, sure. I'll be looking forward to
I
that.
would be something much larger than that. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you have any other closing statements you'd like to share with our audience, or?
Yeah, and also if you guys have any questions, you can just DM me. Right, my DM is always up, and I never ignore. Unlike many people who got in. Well, there was a very funny story that I'm gonna tell you later.
Okay.
I do not ignore people because I know how it feels when you are ignored. Right? And I know that it is actually really bad. And like a lot of people who ignore other people, they miss out like such great connections. So I tend to text and back for sure.
I mean, this is what we have in common, by the way. Every night before I go to sleep, I clear my inbox on Telegram.
Yeah, and also it's nice to have like a clean inbox, right?
Yeah.
You don't want to have it messy like a lot of guys. Like thousands of unread messages per his head. Okay.
Right. All right. Hope you guys enjoyed today's episode. If you liked our content, don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave your comments in the comment section below. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.